My name is Samar Kamau, the Executive Director, African Fine Coffees Association. AFCA is relooking at the Women in Coffee Strategic Plan that we have been running for the past 3 years. We would want to relook at the program and activities that have been carried out and develop a new strategy for the next 3 to 5 years.
Today I'm here to talk about women in coffee, and as I look in the participation of women and youth in the sector, I see a big gap in terms of women involvement, especially at the marketing nodes. So glad to be invited to this Women in Coffee conference that is organized by AFCA, and the brain behind is to try to see how to develop a strategy for the coffee sector. So evolving everybody in the sector in terms of the organizations that are working in coffee is a great thing. I am aware that each organization in the coffee sector is trying to implement gender programs where they work with women in terms of, promoting them, training, and making sure that they can ably participate in decision making. I would think that creating more space for women in terms of them airing out their issues, in terms of participating in the chain, because as you know, at farm level they participate equitably in terms of production, and when it comes to coffee, having the quality coffee that you market abroad, everybody should be in line with the knowledge and skills. So promoting these women in terms of bringing spaces for them to air out their issues, involving them in all the nodes of the value chain in terms of building their capacity to be able to equitably participate in the sector, I would think that will also be immensely contributing to sector growth. Uganda Coffee Development Authority came up with a roadmap. For example, we are looking at increasing the quantities of coffee from 3.5 million bags to 20 million bags. Who are the key players in the sector? The first key player in the sector is a woman. Also, you bring on board the man and the youth, the young people that we need to also. My role in the coffee sector is that I work for a certification company, and one of the issues or themes that we are looking at is gender. So in terms of gender, we are promoting inclusivity in terms of bringing women, men and the youth to equitably participate in value chain, and in terms of working with those who are not able being represented at all levels. I see that there is a gap in terms of training the youth, training the women. And some of the things that I've done in the sector is I've participated or I've gained experiences in terms of exchanges on the different programs that are trying to promote women. So I see the idea of developing a coffee strategy, a gender coffee strategy that is promoted by AFCA as a good thing, because bringing about this dialogue with the different stakeholders to discuss on issues of gender and especially women is more critical now. So we might see that there are elite women who are participating in the chain because they have the skills, they have the knowledge, but we have the women in the field that are able also participating in the chain. So how do we use the opportunity of those ones who are already uplifted in terms of skills and knowledge and make sure that everybody is moving on the same page? So I would see that using this opportunity to develop a strategy where all programs, where all projects or initiatives that are trying to promote women and youth participation is talked about, and sharing of learnings within those projects will be very good in terms of spurring growth or trying to contribute participation.
I'm happy to be part of the AFCA session that is preparing for youth and women inclusion strategy into the coffee value chain. The women and youth, just like men, are playing an important role in the coffee industry, right away from production all through the value addition along the whole value chain to even the environment that is enabling, be it policy. I see women well positioned for participation and for improving production in coffee, because you can't say that there is a place where women are not in the production of coffee. they're even in businesses like inputs, all the way nurseries, and part of their organizations that are in the coffee value chain are manned by women. And it's really important that that in this plan for strategizing for increasing coffee production, that women and youth are thought out, and that they're put as key persons. It is stating out the exact issues that are reading women and youth from participating in coffee, and also defining a whole trajectory of what steps should be taken to include youth and women in coffee. And as we move forward, we are seeing women themselves appreciating that this is way different, and it is a turn, because if I see that our current population is youth, and the level of participation at the different nodes of the value chain being unstable, especially at the base, I would see that this strategy, looking at inclusion of youth right away from production, is a key tool towards growth of the sector as a whole.
I was privileged that my father was a coffee farmer. I learned so many things from him, and when I picked interest from him, from what he was doing, that's why I decided to become a coffee farmer also. My husband was not interested in it because we are all teachers. For him, he thought that changing from teaching to farming would let our income down. But when I realized that we are not well enough financially, I turned myself into a coffee farmer. In 2013, I joined the HRNS as a facilitator, where I worked with Mr. Semwanga Farouk, who was the project coordinator and project manager, and we reached the youth to help them become also coffee farmers. Youth were difficult, but after some time they realized that we should turn into coffee farmers. We used to start with what they were growing. By then they were growing tomatoes, maize, seasonal crops as such. But when it came to long-lasting crops, we told them all what was about coffee. So far we had something like 500 youth who were engaging themselves in coffee farming. Now we have reached 1,263 members in our group. In 2014, I was so privileged that whatever was done as a family in coffee made us to succeed. Our firstborn is now at Mbarara University. He's taking the course of medicine and surgery, so he will soon turn into a doctor. Our second-born is in Wachiso district. He's now in senior 4. The third-born is the daughter I'm moving with, has completed primary 7, and she excelled with 9 aggregate in PLE. So coffee has not done any harm. Compared to what we have been doing in our communities and what are the strategies of Africa, I'm so privileged that whatever we want the community to turn into are the strategies laid by Africa. So I'm ready to work with Africa down in our communities because I have all the skills I can implement all the strategies, I can talk with the youth and women, I can promote all gender activities in our community so that we uplift the standards of living, especially for the women and the youth in our community. With Uganda, I've realized that the focus is mainly on youth and women. You know, compared to our population, women are many. Women are affected with so many things. When it comes to wars, women are affected. Poverty, women are affected. Famine affects women. And remember, women are mothers. So if you uplift the standards of women, then we uplift the nation at large. So I'm happy that Africa has manipulated almost everything concerning the standards of living of women, especially in our rural communities. Compared to the financial status of the youth are saying there are no jobs in Uganda. But there are no jobs if we have not created jobs. Coffee farming has an impact of creating jobs, especially for the youth. When they involve themselves in marketing, farming, processing, and everything. You know, youth are energetic. If there is money, they can easily turn themselves into responsible people. Youth are easily diverted. So we shall work together with AFCAN and we shall make.
Yeah, I think youth and women in coffee are very key people in kind of building the coffee sector into a sustainable venture. I think it's going to be helpful enough in empowering and getting the youth and women participate more, get much more involved in the coffee value chain in different sectors, looking at production, into processing and then marketing. I think they're going to be very key, and the workshop is really giving a better strategy to help the youth get involved and help them earn a living and get interested in working with the coffee and the agriculture sector. Yeah, we look at women and youth as being involved much more, and since they're in big numbers, we think they can really help in the production sector, at production, and then post-harvesting, and we think by them being involved, we are sure we can get the government target of the 2020 and 20 million bags of coffee. I think they have different roles at different stages along the value chain. We have youth that can be engaged at a level of production. We have youth that will be interested in working at the marketing level. Value addition, whereby we actually look at the baristas and those people preparing coffee for the coffee shops. And what we can do is appeal to the government and the authorities to help us empower these youth, train them, give them capacity to actually be able to do their responsibilities along the value chain in different sectors, in different levels. Chivinge Coffee Farmers Cooperative Society, as a member of AFCA, we have actually gained a lot in exposure through fairs, international fairs. We have gotten market linkage through trainings, through workshops, and then capacity building through different trainings, looking at the gender, trainings in market intelligence, and quality trainings that we have acquired through being members of AFCA.
I've been in the coffee business for the last 35 years, and now I'm organizing women and youth in coffee. So So far I have two full farm groups for women and youth in coffee. One is based in the Mitiana area and another one is based in Zigoti. We train women and youth in the coffee sector, plant right from the root level. We start from the farm up to the last level. That's the value-added coffee. We assist to get them plantlets for planting. Then we train them on how to dig the holes, how to take care of the plant, how to harvest it, and how to dry it and process it up to the last level. Right now, so far, I have about 500 whom I get assistance from the IW, sometimes UCDA, to get them fertilizers, free insecticides, and tarpaulins and other things, requirements they want. At times I use my own funds to buy them hand harrows, like those ones in Bali. In fact, I have another group in Bali. Those ones I get them hand harrows. Now we are having an ongoing AFCA conference on women and youth in coffee, which is really very good. But the only way is that what I've seen is that they involved very few youths. There would have been more youth in that training. And I think because they are the future of tomorrow, we want to involve more youth in the coffee sector, because coffee is the cash crop earnings for all Ugandans. Since this is an agricultural country and and coffee is the #1 cash crop earner for Uganda. We are including women because women are serious when they get serious when they are to do something. You train them, they are serious. You give the money to them, they are serious, they return the money. They can be trusted, hardworking. They will produce good quality coffee. They will not do any malpractices like men are doing. So we try to get a very good market for the women and youth, and it's good that many people have been visiting abroad. They are looking for coffee from women and youth. And we hope that in the future they will be earning quite a lot from their yields. So I would advise that we continue this practice of involving women and youth in coffee.
Well, I would say it's you definitely end up with a mix. So every household is a bit different. You find some smallholder farmers where the households are really controlled by the men. So maybe the women are doing most of the work and the men really control the financial transaction of the coffee. In other cases, you'll find where the women are solely involved. And then with that, you naturally find children involved in what you would say child work, getting acclimated with the processing, growing, and harvesting of coffee. Because definitely as a mother has children, if she's in the garden, those children are naturally going to come in and help and slowly learn. So there definitely is a positive culture beginning to grow again in terms of youth taking on roles in the coffee sector. I mean, AFCA has been, it's been great. We've been able to start up and get all of the support necessary from AFCA in terms of, taste of harvest, different workshops, different trainings. And for us being in the specialty coffee niche market, that's really, really, really beneficial because you end up getting a lot of resources and information that may have been more expensive, but now you're able to get those at a reasonable cost, if not for free. I think it's great. I think it's positive. The more women we have, traditionally, women are the backbone of the household. So the more women that you have involved in coffee, that's where the household is going to go. So if women are involved, the youth are naturally going to get involved because they're going to grow in that culture and they're going to grow in that work. And I think that with what we're trying to do with this policy, we have a lot of unemployed youth, number one. So I think with coffee being the second most traded commodity in the world, and Uganda being the #1 exporter in Africa, there's a lot of opportunity within the coffee sector for the youth. So the more youth we get involved, the better chances we have of solving the unemployment issues. Well, when you look at the population in Uganda, most of the population is youth, and the youth base is growing. So they have to be on board and they have to be instrumental, whether that be at the processing level, the production level, and also at the export level if we're going to reach our targets in terms of export.
My role as a gender officer, gender specialist, is to make sure that men and women work together in the coffee businesses, and then that men appreciate and recognize the role of women, because here in our country, coffee is considered to be men's crop. So the women will do the other roles, the production and everything, but when it comes to marketing, the men take over. And when it comes to the monies that come from the coffee, the women lose it all. And then somehow they feel demotivated, they are not willing to work on the farm the coming season. So my role specifically is to make sure that these men start appreciating and recognizing that these women are key actors in the coffee businesses. Women have not been recognized despite all the effort or the work they do on the coffee. They still have not been recognized. The strategy talks much about the women and youth. The major issue here is that, to me, we are bringing more women on board, and then this will help on the sustainability of the coffee, because the women are doing a lot of work. They are the ones actually managing the farms, although the men claim that these farms are theirs, but the person doing the real work is the women and their young children maybe at home. So the strategy actually helps us that these people now come out officially to be recognized as key actors on the coffee farm, for sustainability purposes. The youth, just like I've told you, that they are the ones working on the farm with their parents, with their mothers. But the challenge here is they don't want mostly to engage in the coffee business. Why? Because they still believe the crop takes long to mature, and for them they want quick monies. But we have also done some things, and then we have seen them coming on board. They may not do the actual production because, first of all, they don't have the land. Some of them will claim they don't have the money. But what we are looking at, if these people start taking coffee as a family business, the men start like maybe sharing part of their farms to the young people, the youth. And we have also seen things like if we can engage the youth at different levels, not specifically the production, but maybe like production of coffee seedlings, maybe the marketing of the coffee, such things, the processing of the coffee, because the fact that they don't have land, they may not do much of the production. First of all, the women will be empowered to start, they will be empowered. First of all, they need to be empowered, to be recognized, to be understood, to be appreciated. And the moment they are appreciated, they are recognized, they are empowered, then we feel there is sustainability of the coffee industry, because the women play big parts in production. They play big roles in quality assurance. They are really the drivers of the whole sector. So to me, the agenda comes at the right time, because if you look at the country like Uganda, they have a big target of exports, coffee exports. Looking at 20 million bags per year is not an easy thing. So the involvement of women and youth will actually enable the country itself to achieve that great vision.
I really think women and the youth in coffee are very, very paramount. Their participation, their involvement, and their empowerment is really very crucial in coffee. For example, the old people in coffee are aging. They are now less energetic, and today they cannot do as rigorous and various activities that are needed in coffee. Since coffee is real physical and agricultural work needed down there on the ground, we find out that the old people, they are not taking care of the farms very well. But the youth and women, they have ample time, and since the youth are energetic, they are able to ensure that the farms are maintained as possible. And the women, since they handle things with care, they handle things with patience, they are really good at looking after the coffee farms. AFCA has played a very, very important role to our organization. For example, I can give the AFCA conferences that are organized every year. There is market access that has been achieved by our organization. Sekofa has really reaped big on international buyers of our Ugandan Robusta coffee. We have attained international markets through, for example, the current coffee buyer we are dealing with, who has given us a long-term working relationship, was achieved because we went for the AFCA conference. Also, through the AFCA conference and AFCA support, we have been able to strengthen our financial muscle. Through them, we attained the financial institutions that we are dealing with. I do think the strategies that have been come up with in today's meeting are really very, very practical and achievable. That's the first thing I have to tell you. And also, for example, training women and the youth in coffee, and also establishment of demonstration gardens that are going to be owned by the women and youth in coffee is a very, very important strategy, and it is going to it sends a message to the youth and the women out there that they also have a say in the coffee sector. Yeah. I think the role of the youth in the coffee industry is a very paramount role that today you cannot do without the youth involving themselves in coffee. I really think the youth are very, very rigorous. They are very active. They still have the freshness, and when they do things, they have the passion to do them. So I really think if the youth are involved in the coffee industry more actively, for example, in marketing, we involve the youth. In real practical farming, we increase the coffee, the youth farming. In also exportation, let's involve the youth in exportation of coffee. This is going to boost the coffee industry in a way that each activity is going to be done fast. And since coffee is food, we really need to handle coffee with intensive care, and we have to be steadfast. Since also the markets of coffee, the international markets of coffee, keep on changing here and there, the fluctuation in the prices of coffee, they have to be handled by the youth who are first at that. Thank you very much. For us, as Sekofa, we have an idea of one woman, one tree, one coffee tree. And under the youth, we have what we call we have come up with the cultural or regional coffee plantations, whereby we are going to ensure that we lobby out for bigger land acreage from the cultural leaders like the Kingdom of Uganda. We are planning to go there and we talk to the responsible people so that they can allocate land that is either on lease, or they just say that this land is to be used for 15 years, and the youth grow coffee. This we have ensured that each year, starting 2019, the coffee youth in each region can be able to export at least 1 container. And this is going to massively increase and also help the government achieve the 2025 goal. Thank you.
In our effort to increase the farmers' incomes and therefore improve their livelihoods, we are doing so many things. To start with, we have penetrated the specialty market, and we are using certifications to sell our coffee. These certifications in return give us premiums that we then pay back to the farmer cooperatives to do several activities. Some of the money goes back to the farmers, to the individual farmers, in form of second payments, and some of the premiums go back to the cooperative to do community development projects. And these community development projects depend on the need of the farmers of the respective areas. So in this cooperative, we work with groups which we call primary societies, and we are working with 8 of them currently. Of course, this is going to grow, but as a start, we thought it's better for us to start small, so we started with 8. But I see that we are going to grow as we go further on in the business. There are things that we are trying to do with farmers, not just to buy their coffee, but to create a market that is sustainable and that will earn them better incomes. So we are majorly focusing on quality, especially. So we work with farmers through from the farm level. We are looking at how the coffee is grown. We are looking at the post-harvest handling of this coffee way through to the point when it's exported. So we are not doing this alone as a company, but we are having the farmers involved at all levels. Now, on realizing that women do a lot of work in coffee production, we are coming up with another strategy to see that we even make it better. So we are looking at trying to market women's coffee. We do this by separating coffee that's supplied by women farmers, women member farmers, from the entire lot. So this coffee will be sold at a premium, which will then go back to do development projects for women. We are also looking at doing other projects with women that are income generating, that will improve on their incomes. We have seen that in our communities, in most cases we have domestic violence, which is as a result of a family not having enough money. Maybe a woman needs stuff to use at home and the husband doesn't have enough money, so when she asks and the man feels frustrated, in the end they end up fighting, they end up quarreling, and it affects everybody in the family. So we are trying to look at minimizing such things happening in the families. So we are trying to involve everybody in the chain, the mothers, the fathers, and the children. Of course, with children, we are very careful when it comes to things like child labor. We want the children to be trained and not to be used as workers on their farms. So those are the things we are trying to do with our farmers. We are just starting, I'll not say that we have done a lot, but those are the things we want to do to see that our farmers have a better livelihood. Now, women like me, working in coffee is, I love coffee. I have a passion for coffee, and I have worked in coffee for a very long time, and I've seen the benefits that come with this. But having women like me is not good enough. I think for us to come up with very good strategies that will help everybody, we need to involve the grassroots women, the farmers, because they're the ones who understand what happens down there at the grassroots level. They are the ones who go through it. So we need to also have them here, involve them in such planning, so that they at the end of the day, when we come up with something, they own it. We don't seem like we are just having something that we are taking to them, but we have them participating in this. And therefore, if we start implementing some of these things, they are able to do it faster and they own it.
As Ankore coffee producers, our biggest challenge is how to get the youth and women on board, especially on the side of coffee production. At the moment, we have an organization in Europe buying small quantities of coffee from women, but that's not enough to meet the production. And the proceeds that have come from that coffee, the women have used it to start their own saving and credit circle, which is still on a small scale, but it is helping women to get used to the culture of saving and credit. Secondly, it is also going to help them to generate more income, so that maybe on their own they can access their own pieces of land, because the current system of land ownership gives the big chunk of land to women, limiting women who have access to land. Like being a member to our societies, you have to have access to coffee and land, and that limits the number of women who can join the union and also be in areas of leadership. But good enough what is happening at ACPCU. Already we have a number of women who are in key decision areas. Like ACPC board has 5 people, of which 2/3 must be women and youth. And as I speak now, the current vice chairperson is a lady, and the treasurer of the union is a lady. And then also on the subcommittees, one of the key subcommittee is headed by a lady. So somehow the women are a bit empowered within ACPCU. And we think through more training, through more encouragement, these women can really become victorious in what they are doing, and they can encourage other women to come on board, so that they can also empower the women and strengthen their position within the cooperative union. In regard to this training, I think it has come in timely, because we have many gaps in the way we can entice the women and youth into full participation into the union. I will use the knowledge that I will acquire from this training to carry it over to our women and youth, so that we can see areas where we can improve, so that we can get empowered women, empowered youth, and so that they can take bigger positions in leadership, in management, and also in coffee production and processing. As Ankore, we are ready even to allocate resources for this particular project, because we know supporting women, you'll be supporting the whole value chain, because they play strategic role in coffee, especially in the production, and harvesting. Without their involvement, then the post-harvest handling will always be neglected, which will lead to lower quality coffee if we don't make sure we get them greatly involved in the whole value chain. So this is our position as Ankore Cooperative Union, and we hope to do more so that we can champion the cause of women and youth. Yeah, I think this conference has come in timely. It has exposed us to new ideas, and we think through partnership with Africa, and given the exposure Africa has world over, we shall have to access maybe better markets for women's coffee and youth, and also we can also maybe access other resources internationally which we can use to support the projects for women and youth.
And today I have been with Africa facilitating a workshop to involve or to see how we can make women, all gender aspects, and youth get involved more in coffee development. The role of women and youth in coffee is very critical because in our context as a producing country, for instance, we have a lot of work that is dependent on women, and the youth are also marginalized, and for us to increase production, because that's where most of our income comes from, we need a concerted effort addressing issues affecting all value chain actors, and this involves the women and the youth. Bringing the women and youth together to discuss issues that are affecting them is really very, very important for the sector development, and for us also who are working in coffee development, because we get opportunities to. There has been a very good intensive discussion on the way, after deliberating on the challenges facing women or gender and youth in the sector. There has been a very good detailed deliberation on which strategies will be used by the sector to deliver the program. And so if implemented, it will definitely deliver, because it's not one single strategy, but a combination of strategies that can be used as a farmer group, as an individual, and as a sector. So my recommendation is for Africa to make sure that they follow through, so that to see that these strategies are actually implemented. There are different activities in the value chain, and right now the biggest population in Uganda is that is working on coffee is mainly aged or aging farmers. So focusing on the youth to get them more interested, involved, and building their capacities to take over will be very crucial in the coffee sector. They can work at different levels of the value chain, production, marketing, and quality improvement. They don't have to focus on only the petty jobs or picking or at the farm. There is so much there, because jumping from the current production of 4.6 million bags to 20 million bags in a short period requires a concerted effort, and it also requires capacity building and empowerment, and focusing on the women, who are almost 90% of the rural population that produces coffee, and a big number of youth still unemployed and staying in the rural areas. It's really important to pay attention for them to contribute to this target. So I would request or appeal for the government and other implementing partners to get more involved,
Gender issues and youth involvement is really critical to the development of not only coffee but the whole economy at different levels of participation. And also I'm urging the people who have been participating in this to take it serious and take it to the next level. Thank you.
The organizers of the Africa Conference for inviting me here. And we are going to look at the role of women and youth in coffee. So what I want to tell them is really what do we have in mind as research. What we have in mind is to come up with a youth camp. What's a youth camp? A youth camp is where we are defining it as where we bring in the youth, like students. We start with the students during the holidays. They come camp. Either they sleep in Chituza, whereby they pay us a fee because we have all these forests. We have all these natural forests. Or they go and sleep in town. Then we have also coffee is born in Africa, Robusta coffee, Arabica coffee in Ethiopia. Now, so many people come from Europe, especially the French, to come and see where coffee really came from. So these people have just...
In the International Women Organization, we are looking at empowering women in the coffee sector through the coffee value chain. That means we are looking at women in the whole production, consumption, and marketing activity of the coffee industry by women. So today we are here at the conference organized by African Fine Coffees Association, and we are there as partners, really. We are there as partners. We are looking at sustainable coffee production. We are looking at marketing. We are looking at improving membership and even getting members for women members for the coffee industry. I want to say that as women, we do a lot of work. We do a lot of work in the coffee industry. We are coffee producers, basically, because 70% of the work is done by women in the coffee sector. But the rewards of that labor is not seen. And therefore, the women themselves don't feel like they are participating a lot or they are benefiting the industry. That's why there is need to look at the membership, to look at the training, to look at the empowering of women so that they are in the industry with full knowledge of their contribution, full knowledge of their benefit, what they can really contribute to the coffee industry. And I think the coffee industry in Uganda has a great time. We have the support of the government. We have the support of the legal systems. They are supporting the industry and even the marketing of the coffee. We have one of the best organized structures in the coffee industry, I would say, in East Africa. And that should see us really producing very high quality coffee and making sure that we market the coffee for our people, and therefore we shall be improving the household incomes of our farmers. Now, in the new strategy that we hope to develop over these 2 days here, we are going to look at how we can mobilize our women membership, we mobilize the marketing of our coffee. We may even have to look at the branding of coffee produced by women in Uganda. I understand the world is looking at that type of branding. They are interested in supporting coffee produced by women, because that would be a direct support to the households of those women who are producing coffee. We are looking at creating knowledge for the women, because without knowledge, they would be out there producing but not knowing how quality coffee should be produced. And we are looking at policy, advocacy. We want the women to know what the country expects of them and what they expect from the country in terms of the industry they are engaged in. And then, of course, these women are organized in their small groups, and we want to see how we can support them organizationally to champion their own cause in their small groups and to be part of the bigger organization. So as women in coffee, we are looking at packaging and packaging something that will benefit all women actors in the coffee industry. You know, women are not only producers of coffee, they are marketeers, they export coffee, they run cafes, and we want to touch every woman along the coffee value chain.
It's very, very important that women, you cannot take women out of coffee. They are very, very important, because our mothers and youth are the ones who pick coffee, dry coffee. So you find that from planting up harvesting and selling, they always participate. So you can't forget women and youth in coffee. They are very important. I think it's very, very important to empower women and youth. The strategy is very, very important, very good, because if you see, when you empower women and youth, you have already empowered the world. Because if you are modeling, you are an old guy, you have to be with a youth influence on your back. If you move away, he will represent you. Because if you build youth today, you will sustain coffee. Because our fathers and our mothers are already going. So we are supposed to represent them tomorrow, so that we sustain coffee on the world market, so that people will be able to get money, will achieve a better life. Yeah, there are one is to plant coffee. If you want to achieve 1 million bags of coffee, youth must plant coffee. Youth must look after coffee. Women must plant coffee also. They have also to look for land, because if you want to be with land with coffee, you have to be with land. So we have to look for other alternatives whereby we can get money, and so that youth can buy land and plant coffee. And I think our mothers and our brothers must be very careful, because the land does not increase, but the population is increasing. So we need to apply a new technology, so that we can produce more from the small piece of land that we have. If we don't apply gaps, we shall not achieve, because the land does not increase, but we need high production. So whereby we have to use fertilizer, we have to use good agriculture practices, which can help to increase the volumes, the quality and quantity of coffee. It's very, very important.